The fact that my grandmother lost almost 100 family members during the Holocaust not only had an impact on her life, but on my mother's and mine as well. Losing everyone they loved caused them great sadness that stayed with them most of their lives, especially affecting their physical and emotional health. Seeing how the Holocaust had an impact on my family made me start to think about other traumas in our Jewish history and what happened to those people. I began to look at the Inquisition. Jews from the Iberian coast, called Sephardim, were cast out of Spain in 1492 by Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. They were persecuted around the world for almost 400 years. The trauma they felt was tangible. Yet they managed to preserve their heritage. Their memories, traditions, rituals gave them comfort. However, they were practiced at great peril. Why risk endangering the lives of your family to teach these to them? They could have walked away, and many did. Still others were willing to die for what they believed. Why endanger your family to pass on Jewish identity? What kept them going? This may sound crazy, but the real answer may be in their genes. Epigenetics is a new science that examines how environment can create alterations in genes that alter the way they function. Scientists at Duke, Emory, Columbia, Stanford are studying how certain traumatic life experiences can affect us on a genetic level, modifying our DNA. We know that trauma leaves scars. Now there's evidence that they're altering our genes. And not only that, these things can be passed on. When we repeat an action or a thought, it's imprinted in our bodies and our brains. Even when the experience is over, it's not forgotten. Through Sephardim's stories, oral tradition, and books, we've learned that they suffered from melancholy. We call it depression today. It's well documented that the trauma that they suffered affected them, especially after forced conversions, abandoning their homes, and very often always being under the threat of death. These experiences affected them so profoundly that they imprinted on their genes. Why is this important? If our genes can be changed by the past, then it means we can determine the future. The concept of a tabula rasa, a blank slate, has been around since Aristotle. Today, that idea has been abandoned. We know that a new baby comes in on the very first day of life with a suitcase full of traits. In fact, being bipolar is 70% genetics and 30% environment, while an eating disorder is 60% genetics and 40% environment. Our ancestors' experiences have combined in a concrete way, especially trauma that leaves a signature. What we do now can influence and matter future generations. When I first learned about DNA evidence, I was pretty skeptical. The idea that somebody could take a swab from the inside of someone's mouth and that might put them in prison for the rest of their lives seemed fantastic to me. Yet it's true. So what do we do with this new information? Is there a way to pass on positive experiences also? If trauma and negative experiences can be imprinted on our genes, is it possible for positive experiences to use the same pathways, also being passed on to future generations? Sephardim maintained their identity and tradition through centuries of persecution. Why is it a Catholic woman in New Mexico is lighting Shabbat candles in her closet in the 21st century? Vital rituals and life-affirming behaviors imprinted on Sephardim's genes alongside the trauma that they experienced. From the way we celebrate the birth of a baby, to the apples and honey we taste at Rosh Hashanah for a sweet new year, or even the rituals that we follow to bury the dead, our ancestors' life cycles are what we are using to move forward in our own lives.
Passion and purpose.
What we do now can matter and influence future generations, especially if we do it with passion and with purpose. Ritual and tradition have great meaning for us because they promote our unity. Ritual and tradition have great meaning for us because they promote unity. Often we do them with our own gene pool. These connections matter. It's not just the traditions that we do with our children, it's the ones we do for ourselves. For example, maybe we light Shabbat candles on Friday night, knowing that thousands of other people around the world are doing the same thing. In our family, we take a deep breath to release the week and greet the Sabbath. Often afterwards we have said our prayers, we hug and we kiss, and sometimes we even burst into song. We're not just presenting these rituals to keep them alive. We're doing it so that we can seal them into our genes. When we make mindful choices, we can use Jewish practices that fit us and our lifestyle, ones that live in our body. If it's possible to imprint positive experiences, then let's choose what we want future generations to know by our actions. These actions have the potential to influence our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's all part of our genetic legacy. I grew up in a Jewish home that echoed with the Holocaust and was short on traditions, yet I had a strong sense of identity. Wouldn't it be nice not to have a trauma every few generations to reinforce our identity? We can repeat, we can replace our gene pool with positive experiences that create continuity. It gives us the opportunity to reverse the traumatic tide. We cannot change the past. We can only direct the future. We can even be the authors of our own lives. It's incentive enough to make a commitment by building your family. It's incentive enough to build your family with a commitment to teach rituals and tradition to upcoming generations, especially ones that are encompassing. By making conscious choices, you can choose what lives in you, and you may influence many generations. It just might change your DNA for the better.